Hello and welcome to All Four Wins Football. We are back for episode number 43 of Lower League Lingo, which is exactly my age. Didn't need to know that, but there you go. We'll see you on the other side of this. Yes, even and all, and a big welcome to you if you are joining us, having watched us back, as I know lots of you do, but good to have you along with us. We are chatting all things tier 5 this evening, and you may have noticed there is no Stu. He is off on duty at the moment, as is John, but in two very, very different fields of work. So let's have a little look at the wonderful panel that we have assembled. We've got the guy who's always here, which is, of course, Mr. Gareth. You're looking pretty snazzy down there. You look like you're getting ready for some sort of winter photo shoot for a catalogue there with the old turtleneck.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Because my students at work have um not been as complimentary. They told me it looks like a Christmas jumper, and I'm wearing snow. So yeah, so I appreciate the compliment, Barry. I would, however, really like to see a 24-hour job swap between Stu and John. I think that'd be very amusing.
I'll get
Um,
loads of telly.
just see how they both cope in those contrasting worlds.
Maybe we should make it happen. We'll see what we can do. See, like ride along with John and Stu. It'd be amazing. But we have a very worthy replacement. He's been on the show before, and is a legend in his own right from the Wolves Room podcast. It is Nick. How are you doing, sir?
Oh, I'm very well, my friend. Very well. I also was impressed by our friend Gareth's jumper. It's definitely Marks and Spencer's finest. But I'm just buzzing to be top of the league and having a laugh. Did I say that
Well,
quite loudly enough? Top of the league. Top of the league. Yeah, 7 wins on the bounce. It's 5. Don't worry. I can't mention it. I also won't say how many goals we scored last as against Wimenshaw last time we played them.
okay, and the banter has begun
For most of
already.
the second half, it was 1-1. That's all I can remember. The last 5 minutes were a bit of a blur in my mind.
Final score that matters.
Bless them. It's the first time the two have met since their rather wonderful WNL Cup meeting, and as you can see, it might spill over onto the floor like WWE's finest. But the good news is it's all virtual, so what can they do? Not a huge amount. Right, we've got 8 leagues that we need to run through. Not been huge amounts happening, to be fair, in all of them. It's just the odd game or two for us to look at, but I know that we shall be doing that. And the very first one that we're going to look at is, no surprises, over in the northwest, which means, Gaza, we will be coming to you in just a second. Let's just, look at that, it moves. Here we are. 2, AFC Filed doing rather well there. Lots to talk about on this one, not least, I think, for you, Gaza, that next week's, or rather this weekend, big games at the top and the bottom of the table. So take us through what's happening in the Northwest Regional.
Yeah, so I think last time we spoke, Bolton had a bit of a shaky start. That shaky start has kind of been corrected, but also there's been changes. A number of players have left. I think Faye Knox, one of their kind of top score, I think she was their top goal scorer last season, and has kind of been there and thereabouts again this year with some of the goals. She's left and gone to Wrexham. In the Welsh Premier Division, there's been some other players announced departures as well, and that includes the manager and assistant as well. So, there are a lot of changes at Bolton. Unsure quite what's gone on there. They do find themselves 11 points adrift of Fylde, and 6 points adrift of Mancunian Unity in second place. So I think one thing to mention is I think that is a difficult points tally to overturn. When there's 14 games left, it's absolutely possible. But you imagine they need to pick up points against definitely Mancunian Unity, and try and get something out of Fylde as well. I imagine 11 points is going to be too much, but that second place potentially still open for sure. Fylde are just playing well. They're playing well and they're scoring plenty of goals as well. Excuse me. I think this weekend is the first weekend where they've really been tested away at Crewe. We played Crewe at Withenshaw. Well, at Withenshaw we played against Crewe away in pre-season, and they're a difficult side to break down. Matt's got them well drilled. They're a solid side. They're difficult to beat, especially at home. I think that from what I remember about that pitch, it's quite long, it's quite narrow. The ball runs a lot, and if you're used to playing on grass, sometimes going and playing on that 4G pitch is tricky. And they went 1-0 down. But they came a goal just for half time, and then on 74 minutes meant that Fylde eventually ran out 2-1 winners. But it was tricky for them. Polton Vicks dragged themselves out of that relegation zone last weekend with a win against Curzon. So it was a penalty that got them the win. But when you're kind of down at the scrapping for points towards the bottom, you don't really mind how they go in as long as they do. I think Fleetwood are in trouble. They do have 2 games in hand on some of those teams, but I think it's going to be tricky for them. I think Curzon as well. I think Curzon's 1 win was against Fleetwood, and they're not picking up wins anywhere else. They've almost played. They are not far away from halfway through the season and 7 points adrift. It's looking tricky for them, especially when everybody in that mid-table is taking points off each other. West Didsbury have slipped in. They were outside last time we spoke, and Polton are in. They obviously traded places at the weekend because West Didsbury lost 4-1 against Bury. But as you can see, looking at that points tally from third, from Tranmere in third right the way down to West Didsbury in their relegation zone, there's only 5 points between them. So a good month, a good run of games, some postponements, injuries, etc., can all have huge impact there. And the whole table could look very, very different next time we speak. One thing I will say, obviously, the second place this year is crucial. Unity look to have a good hold on that after coming away beating FC United 4-1 at the weekend. I don't quite know off the top of my head how that stacks up in terms of points per game compared to everybody else. It's 2.5-ish, 2.4, something along those lines. So I imagine they will be towards the top end, but are they in that top 2? I don't actually know, having not calculated it, but maybe over the course of this show, it's something I can make a note of so they to figure it out sort of by the end. But like you say, there's big games at the top and bottom this coming week. Bury play Bolton, so that's 4th, plays 5th. Curzon played Darwin, so Darwin will be looking to kind of move themselves away from that relegation zone. Fleetwood play West Didsbury. West Didsbury will be looking to do the same. They'll be looking to climb back out of that bottom spot. Crewe play in the League Cup actually against Pilkington, and Tranmere host FC United. So FC United will be looking to kind of close that gap as well. They are the games this weekend. Obviously, other teams not playing, with there being some League Cup games and some County Cup games in there as well. So Fylde and Unity are in action against each other. I'd skimmed over that one for some reason. First place, second as well. So that will be huge. Fylde come out against and beat Unity and move 8 points clear, approaching the halfway mark. You suspect that's going to be a tricky one to overhaul. If you go 9 games without losing, it's tricky to see where you're going to lose 3 in the remaining sort of 13 games of the season. So I don't want to say that the title could be done this week, but it can definitely sort of make that shift a little bit up the M6 towards Fylde. But it is at Unity. So Unity are at home. They will absolutely be looking to close that gap. And then if there's 2 points in it, anything can happen. Without wanting to get the cliches in nice and early, there's plenty of 6-pointers around this weekend. So it's a good weekend to be a neutral, I guess. I've said it last season. This was one of my favourite leagues to follow as a neutral, purely because of how close it is. And this year, with the added jeopardy of an extra relegation place, and the second place team being in competition with the rest of the country, there's plenty of layers there for us to unpick and follow as the season goes on.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. And 2.375 is how many points per game that would be for Mancunian Unity. So well done, well remembered. We'll keep a track on that as we go through the 8 divisions, and certainly big matches. And you're right, with Fylde being where they are, 5 points clear is quite a big thing, but 8 points clear is even better. And it certainly looks like at the moment it is Fylde's to lose. But Mancunian Unity will not. Well, he's in.
I'm just looking at that Bury Bolton game. That's going to be real feisty, tasty game. That one, isn't it? They're a bit of local rivalry there, and then you chuck in sort of the bit of turmoil at Bolton over the last couple of weeks. That could be a real good opportunity for Bury to get a big scalp there for themselves as well. And because
and I feel like Bolton just beat Tranmere, so there's a lot happening out there.
Yeah, it looks tasty. Looks tasty.
Very tasty. Very tasty indeed. So yes, looking good. And of course, like you say, down the bottom as well, big one there. Fleetwood, I think if they don't win that, that is probably, I don't want to say it, but it's good night, nerds.
I think the thing with Fleetwood as well is that has huge implications right the way down the pyramid, because their reserves team is in the regional Division 1 North, and then a development team is in the county league. So it will have a real knock-on effect with, it'll be both of them teams having to shift down as well, and will kind of affect relegation kind of everywhere really. So that's one for the FA to solve later on, I think, if it does come to that.
It's the only problem with having the development sides quite so close, isn't it? But there we go. This is one of the little wrinkles that I think gets ironed out as we move ourselves through the divisions. Now, a little surprise for you guys. We're going to be doing it slightly different to how we normally do it. Normally, I just go from north all the way down to the south. But with no John and no Midlands, we're going to kind of throw that in as a little free-for-all at the end of each of our goes. So we are going to pop over to Nick so that he has the opportunity to help us through. And I've asked him. We'll see whether or not he can come up trumps on this one. But we're going to look at the southern region now. So we've gone all the way from the north down to the south. And as you can see on this one, lots going on. Wycombe Wanderers sitting happily at the top of that one. But I suppose the big one for me on this one, Nick, was again, first of all, the big disparity between games played, specifically with Woodley. We was a little bit worried the last time we was on in this show, because we felt that Woodley had only played one game at that point, and it did look a little bit like they might be looking to wind up, but they played another one. So quite clearly there is still a side there that they can turn out. What are we thinking about the Southern League? Certainly Stu is very, very complimentary about Beaconsfield Town, and they were second when Stu said that. So let's hope he's not put some sort of jinx on them, because they've dropped down to third now. But yeah, Southern region, what's happening?
Yeah. First of all, I just took a step back and looked across all the sort of the Southern England Tier 5 leagues, and I did notice that bar the sort of Southwest, all of the league leaders, Wycombe in this context, and Stevenage in the sort of the Eastern, and Brentford in the London regions, have all got established established clubs leading the table, and I would just wonder, certainly with Brentford, it's that step up of investment that those clubs are now starting to do is having an impact further down the pyramid. We've obviously seen it in the Women's National League. I think it's coming across there. That was just something immediately that stepped out to me when I looked at that and thought that was really interesting. Picking up on Woodley, as you said, they've played their second game now. Wasn't the most successful night for them. I think that's fair to say. And then the game on the 12th was postponed. I'm just double checking that now. Was that because of a cup game? I think Reading might have had a cup game then as well. But it's becoming more of that sort of they're still sitting comfortably above bad shot, but on goal difference only there. And I think it's going to be still a long, hard season for them as they progress. What's good to see in there is that Reading in that mid-table position are starting to stabilise, having had obviously a difficult season last season. They're there. Southampton Women, who had a difficult season as well last season, getting relegated, have stabilised and are sort of going to rebuild, and they're doing well in the FA Cup as well this season. So I think there's some real sort of starts to be some building blocks for those teams as well. As we look forward, not many games this weekend coming up because there's quite a bit of county cup action. Badshot are in action against Solling, so that's a big sort of bottom of the table, sort of 6-pointer there. That would really pull Solling out of the way from the bottom two if they could get 3 points there. Southampton are playing Portchester, so that's the other game sort of on the weekend. So that's a nice mid-table battle, both on 7 points there. And those are the only 2 league games going on this weekend. The rest of everyone else is in County Cup action or got the weekend off. So it's going to be a quiet one for a little while in this league, but certainly something. As I said, Wickham pulling away there at the top, or starting to pull away at the top, and they've got Newport Pagnell in the County Cup. So I'm expecting a Wickham win there as well for that one, but they'll progress further through that competition as well, which will impact fixtures later on in the season, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Newport Pagnell, a side that we played actually earlier on this season in the FA Cup, and they've got quite a nice little ground actually, and a nice little setup going on around there in Newport Pagnell. So it's an away game, did it say, or is it a home game?
It is an away to Newport Pagnell for Wickham Wanderers, so nice little trip for them. So yeah, so they trip out to Newport Pagnell.
Nice little place. So there we go. That will be a good little trip for them. But yes, as you can see, Wickham Wanderers absolutely running through it. This is one of those leagues that hasn't quite managed to hit the quarter stage for some of them, but as we say, for most of them, they have managed to hit it, and that is obviously a good thing for them. Right, that's that one. So we are going to move away from that division now, and we're going to pop over to a side that have already been mentioned, excuse me, by Nick, which is, of course, Brentford in the London and South East Women's Regional Division. And it's one of those leagues that we've spoken about a few times. Ebbsfleet have managed to play a few more games, which is very helpful for them down at the bottom. I say it's helpful. They are, at the moment, struggling to get any points on the board, along with Sport London. They've all struggled just ever so slightly, which is, of course, not really ideal when it comes down to it. But there have been lots of games going on in terms of the FA Cup and those sorts of things. Brentford haven't actually played in the league since the beginning of the month when they beat Sport London 5-0. And then, of course, we had the FA Cups. They have had some previous games played just this weekend, not for Dorking, though, who seem to be missing out there. The Sutton one was down as being postponed for the away game. They've instead switched it and did the home game, so that has changed slightly, and they drew 1-1, which is probably not what Dorking would have wanted as they try and climb the table. But as we can see, it is Brentford who are 7 wins from 7, absolutely smashing it right there at the top of the London and South East. And I've got to be honest with you, it might certainly my pick for the season, but I would also keep a watchful eye on Dartford in 4th, because although Saltine are only 3 behind Brentford, Aylesford are 5 behind, but have already played 2 games more. Dartford are sat there having won 5 from 5 and have still not played since I think the end of September, when they managed, it was a 1-0 win over Saltine United. So Dartford are definitely, for me, a side that last season worked incredibly hard and was certainly pushing Fulham along with the likes of Dorking Wanderers. Dorking dropped off towards the end. They've not quite been at it this season, as we can see so far. So definitely keep an eye on Dartford. They will give Brentford a bit of a run for their money, I think. As we say down the bottom, New Haven are just about clear of Ebbsfleet United. Ashford Town, who obviously were relegated from the WNL last season, are, I wouldn't say comfortably clear in ninth, but they'll certainly be a lot happier being in that position than they were being rock bottom of the WNL Division 1 South East last season. So, that's the big ones. Saltdean with a win recently against Barking, 4-1 away, and that's why they are up at the top, near the top. Aylesford beating New Haven, and Ashford Town off the back of a 5-0 win against Ebbsfleet United. So I think we highlighted that in the last show that we did about the tier 5s, saying that was obviously going to be quite a big game for them. And it was, because as we say, it has pulled them clear of the bottom two. But a great observation from you, Nick, about the fact that the sides currently at the top around near the south do look to be sides that are investing and putting a bit of energy and effort into their women's sides. And yes, certainly interesting to see Brentford sitting up the top of the tree. And I've got to be honest, if you asked me to call it, I think I probably would go for Brentford for that very reason. But yes, Dartford are absolutely right on their tails. Just for reference, so Winchester, in the last league we looked at, in second place, Winchester City Flyers, they obviously had 9 points from 4 games, and they're on 2.25 was their one. So I was just going to do this one. 18 divided by 7 for Saltdean is, it's 2.571. So that's Mancunian Unity in the mud as we speak right now. That is, to be fair, I say 2.571. That's a hell of a decimal number that I've had to do there. But yeah,
not quite in the mud, but second place out of the 3 we've looked at so far. So there only needs to be one team better than them, and then they're not in, and then they're in the mud. They're sort of hovering over the mud, so to speak, currently.
Being held, sort of just about to be dropped into it. Just quickly, I'll just pick out, because I was looking at this league as well. Brentford are playing Aylesford on Sunday, which will be a really interesting game, because I think, well, obviously, if Aylesford are going to try and close that gap, they're going to need the 3 points there to on Sunday. But I, like you, picked out Dartford as well, and they've got, obviously, they're down to Scotland and Benfica this Sunday, so they should be closing that gap down as well onto Saltdean and Aylesford. So Dartford could well be third by the end of the weekend if Aylesford don't pull off something against Brentford.
Yeah, I mean, like there just is something about the way that Dartford have gone about their business over the last couple of weeks, and for them they've got Sport London. So I mean, I'm not in the nicest possible way. They seem to be handing out points like sweets. So you would think that Dartford should, like you say, get the win there. But we shall see.
And that would obviously improve their points per game tally as well. They do sort of sneak in ahead of Saltdean when they catch up on the games in hand. Then that'll be I can do this one. They'll have 3 points per game. Yeah, there you go. You see, there's my maths at the minute. So there we go.
Yeah. So very good in the London and South East. Right, we're going to throw a league up now, and that is one that's going to be a bit of a free for all for everybody to jump in and have a little chitter chatter about. Or are we? Hang on a second. Did I even bring one up? No, I didn't. That was rather stupid of me. I've got rid of it. Give me just a second. No, that's the southern one. That's the one I wanted. I don't know why I deleted that. There we go. We're back on again. The powers of live TV. You're going to love it. Right, there it is. Okay, so we're going to go to the West Midlands to begin with a club that is incredibly close to John Foster's heart. Which is about 11 of the 12 teams that we're talking about here, to be fair. Shifnal Town leading the West Midlands, doing incredibly well there. Again, I shall open this out for people to jump into. But yeah, it's one of those that has not quite hit the quarter mark yet. It's really sort of just in its infancy and just starting to take shape. But Shifnal Town is a side that you would perhaps expect to be doing quite well there. Lyde Town certainly was mentioned quite a bit last season. But when we start talking about sides, Nick, that have got men's teams that could potentially start to invest in, perhaps a bit interesting to see that the likes of Shrewsbury, Burton and Port Vale stuck slap bang in the middle.
Yeah, I think, I mean, Burton, I remember were in Tier 4 not that many years ago. Shrewsbury have sort of sat in this division for far too long, probably. But then I think there are bigger. I don't know Shrewsbury itself well enough, but I think there are bigger issues at that club. Um, Port Vale is probably the one that's out of all of them is probably the surprise in that sense because it's a fairly stable club. Um, but there, I think Shrewsbury are doing better in a way than they were last. I know that sort of I think performances wise they're doing better than they were last season, whereas results I think they did better this last season. That makes sense. So they got. I think this is a really interesting one. Obviously, a lot of the games this weekend are County Cup games for this division because it's the Birmingham County Cup this weekend. I'm looking forward to making my trip up to Keys Park and Heddersford Town. Go and see there. Last time I was there, we had football in the first half, boxing in the half-time interval, and then more football in the second half. Yeah, proper Black Country derby that one was because West Brom were playing there at the time. So yeah, it got a bit scrappy, not just in the football at half-time as well. So it should be a really interesting one. Leaker team, personally, that surprised me. They were another Tier 4 team until fairly recently, and then they've dropped down there. On a positive note, Solihull Moors have stabilised. They had a really poor last couple of seasons really, but last season in particular. But they seem to have stabilised there and are building. For me, the surprise package is Coventry Sphinx. I went to watch Wolves v Coventry Sphinx last season. We did 5 substitutes at half time because we won the game and some. And still managed to put a few more goals past them in the second half. And they were struggling, but they've turned it around this season and are really doing well. And they've got, if I remember right, they've got decent cup tie as well in the FA Cup. They've got Derby County coming to them in the FA Cup as well. So they've been rewarded with their victory in the previous round with Derby County coming, which if they are on the uppers, I could see them doing well there in that game, or at least giving Derby a bit of a counter because Derby are a team that's struggling in the Northern Premier. So I think that might be the chance to see a possible cup upset if you're looking for one of those ahead. Early pick for that cup upset. But yeah, no, Coventry Sphinx, interesting little ground. You crowd very close to the pitch on 3 sides, but nice clubhouse as well. So there we go. That's my sort of 2 pennies worth on the West Midlands.
Mancunian Unity, Gareth, been knocked down a bit further as well there by Lye Town, 2.5 with 10 from 4. So big one there. They've dropped down again. Spoiler alert, they might be knocked down again by the next league we're going to look at as well. But yes, what are you making of this? If you were John Foster, what do you think he'd be sitting here saying now?
I'm sure it'd rattle off all of the former Stourbridge players that are at every single one of these clubs. I imagine is what he would be doing.
It'd be waving his life out flag.
One thing I think is interesting is if you look at all of the leagues we've looked at so far, that there are teams who are absolutely flying and haven't lost a game, and there are teams that are yet to pick up points. So it's kind of showing that double-edged side of things as well. And are we looking now at this impact of, we talk about the gap between tier 3 and tier 4. We kind of mentioned that. We've seen it in some of the WNL Cup results. I've been on the end of 2 of them. But are we starting to see now that there is the top of tier 5 is it going to be able to compete in tier 4, but is outclassing the bottom end of tier 5 and the top of tier 6. So yeah, I think it's interesting one to kind of keep an eye on. But I think every league we've looked at so far, unless I'm mistaken, there's been somebody completely without picking up a single point. So yeah, hopefully League Town, League were National League not that long ago, now struggling to pick up points and shipping goals by the looks of it. We've got 3 teams there. Granted, we are still in the infancy of this particular league, but yeah, there are teams struggling to pick up points, and there are teams that are absolutely flying. So you've got 5 teams yet to lose a game and 3 yet to win. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how things shake out. And also, it's interesting, that your top three sides there are not your the bigger names of sides either. Shrewsbury, Burton, Port Vale all have the National League, not National League, EFL backing, and they're not the ones that are at the top. So that's kind of breaking type, so to speak, for some of these other leagues.
I agree.
Yeah.
Which is very nice to see, like you said, and it's a couple of matches to be played. Alvechurch and Solihull Moors are in the County Cup this weekend. Interestingly enough, Solihull Moors against Rugby Borough. We were talking about them behind the scenes. So because of that, a couple of games have been postponed. So there's only 2 games happening this weekend, which is Port Vale against Greenwich Borough. So that's a little bit of a mid-table competition there. And then Shrewsbury will be playing Leek Town, which again could be quite a big one for Leek, as you just mentioned there. But mostly County Cup action until the weekend after, when we'll see another couple of games. And this is the thing, they're only getting a couple of games at a time there because they've got a League Cup match that's been postponed and all sorts going on. So really, you're not seeing a full set of league fixtures until the beginning of November. So even though it is in the infancy, it doesn't look like this one's going to change too much. Nick, was you going to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to drop in there quickly. I was just having a look back, pick up on Gareth's point there about sort of the top of Tier 5 and Tier 4. And obviously, Kiddie Harriers, one of John's numerous clubs, won the league last season and are now sort of comfortable mid-table in the Tier 4. But obviously, then reflecting on that, Lytown and Shifnal were second and third last season. And obviously the top 2 this season, and Lye were pushing Kiddie all day, and Shifnal were 15 points behind Kiddie last season. So I think that's an interesting. Those sort of 2 teams that were in that top 3 are still up there pushing it, but Shifnal have closed the gap on Lye there, I'd say. But I think that's an interesting little tweak. But yeah, Kiddie and Sheffield, who were both promoted last season out of Tier 5, are sitting mid-table in Tier 4. So again, I think that reinforces what Gareth was saying about top of Tier 5 competing more with the top bottom to top, bottom to middle of Tier 4 as a bit of a challenger.
It's a really good sign to see as well if they can start to close that gap. That would be very, very helpful. Right, we are back up to the north again, where we visit the Northeast Women's Regional League Premier Division. And of course, we've got one of my favourite teams in here, Pontyland United. As Gareth will know, I love any football club that has got a rather eccentric sort of name like that. And Pontyland United are definitely one of them. But the one I want to draw the attention to for me here, Gareth, is another one, which is Sunderland West End, which kind of makes it sound like South meets North for me on that one, with the West End being the theatre district for all things London, and a bit of theatre and drama going on there in Sunderland, because they do, if you look in the wins column, have a win, but they've got no points because of a game against Pontyland United that they did not fulfil. So as a result of that, 3 points have been taken off them. What can I say? The lords of the league giveth and then they taketh away.
Yeah. I think one thing that does surprise me is that we're in the mid-October now, and there are sides that have played 3 league games. For whatever reason, that just baffles me. Some leagues started 2 months ago. The Northwest is approaching midway point, and some of these teams are just about approaching a quarter of the way through, having played 6 games fewer than other leagues. It does kind of baffle me a little bit that there's no universal start date for Tier 5. But again, we're seeing sides here. Bradford have won all of their games in 3rd place. Pontyland and Thornaby unbeaten there at the top. And Wallsend yet to pick up a win. So, it's a kind of similar pattern to before. I think one thing that's interesting is last year, Alnwick Town and South Shields were towards the top end of the table and are now not necessarily towards the bottom because they've picked up wins and points, but they're not yet troubling the top. Anik have played a game more than the top three. But like we say, Bradford and Ponteland were there or thereabouts last year. At Bradford, it went towards the end of the season. They had a game against Chester the Street at the back end of the season and lost, which sort of lost in the title. So they'll be looking to kind of hit the ground running, and they have done. So there's plenty of sides there that have started the season well. There's sort of some more games obviously coming up this weekend, but like you say, there are County Cup games. Wallsend and Alnwick are both in County Cup action. Well, I think they're in County Cup action. Alnwick may be in FA Cup action because they seem to have an other fixture appointed in, but full time's not telling me what that is. Usually the other is the FA Cup, but I have no idea. In fact, there's lots of things on full time. Just saying, Pontefract United against any Northeast Regional Women's Football League reporting. So I think it might actually be County Cup.
I'm glad you've seen that as well.
Lots
Is
of County
that
Cup
really
action.
bizarre? Have you seen that? Like, I've seen that regularly when I'm looking on that league, and I have no idea why it's there. It looks like they're playing twice. Like, what on earth? And also, I don't know if you've noticed, complete sidetrack on this one, but when you go searching for these things now, the leagues don't come up as the leagues; they come up as like 7-digit numbers or something silly like that. Like, what is going on with full time at the minute?
Don't even get me started. Don't get me started. Don't get him started. Or don't get me started. There we go. Full time is just is a lure unto itself. But yeah, there's some interesting ones when you get below the top layer of the game. There we go.
It's mad. There are a couple of league fixtures though this weekend. Bradford plays Spennymoor. So Bradford will be looking to kind of continue that perfect run, and Harrogate don't play Brunsmere, even though it says in here that they do, because Brunsmere are playing in County Cup action. So it may end up just being the one game for Bradford, who don't appear to be in County Cup action, as they take on Spennymoor. So yeah, Bradford, having only played 3 so far, will look to kind of get on par with Pontland, and they can go to the top of the championship. And while everyone else is playing county cups, Bradford can get 3 points on the board. And I imagine, whilst county cups are nice and whilst they are good things to win, if you ask a lot of clubs what they would rather do, would they rather win the league and get promoted, or would they rather win the county cup? I think Bradford at this point will be happy with points on the board, whilst everyone else plays in county cup fixtures. I think there are some sides here who have previously been National League clubs. Bradford City, Alnwick Town, the two that stand out to me as being up there most recently, and they will be looking to get back up. But then it is a league where there isn't really an awful lot of big name representation. You're looking at Harrogate Town in League Two being some of your more, obviously alongside Bradford as well, but they're looking at sort of being your top representatives from the Northeast. It is an area that feels congested. I know obviously the Northwest is also congested as well, but you've got Borough up there that will be kind of picking off some of those top players. You've got your Durham's, Chester Streets, Norton and Stocktons. So there's quite a lot of teams up there. So it will be interesting to see who stays up from tier 4, who comes down. But it looks close. You've got 5 teams there, all within a win of going top. So after a few more games have played and things will start to shake out, it will be interesting to sort of see where things end up. And there's only one side that goes down. So you've got the Northwest with 3 going down in a 12-team league, and in the Northeast, just the 1. So Sunderland West End at the moment will be grateful for that. And they'll be looking to kind of get some more points on the board as well, and try and sort of close that gap on Brunsmere, South Shields, etc.
just pick up on your point there, Gareth, about the sort of the players, etc., and the congestion. As Newcastle in particular invest, those players that were sort of that would normally be in Newcastle's catchment would shake out, etc., and that should shake more players down into your Annex, etc., your South Shields, your Sunderland West Ends, because they'll drop out the other end. And I think that should be interesting as well to see how much that lifts the rest of the game up, having that investment going into Newcastle in the area. One thing I did notice about this league was Thornaby FC, top of the table there, played 4, won 3, drawn 1, have just sacked their manager. Sacked a manager, when did they sack? October the 10th, so 5 days ago. They put a statement out on Twitter stating that they're parted company with the women's first team manager, having been at the club since July 2023. To say it's been greeted on social media with disbelief and sort of surprise is an understatement, including someone noting that they posted on social media before Claire, the manager, could tell the players herself. So that's an interesting one. And Barry, I've just realised there's something we didn't touch on in the West Midlands, which we probably ought to touch on as well, which around points deductions. The South Sunderland West End points deduction there did remind me of it as well. So we'll come back to that if that's okay in a second.
In the West Midlands, there was a points deduction.
Yeah, points deduction just come out. Just come
out.
Announced. Yeah. So we'll come on to that.
News, blimey, we don't get this normally.
Well, I'd say breaking news. It could be out a couple of hours. So Redditch Borough have been chucked out of the FA Cup and have had a 6-point deduction for fielding an ineligible player due to international clearances not being in place.
Wow.
So yes, Crusaders have been reinstated into the FA Cup, and Redditch Borough have been dropped 6 points. It's not even on full time, which is why you won't have picked it up, Barry. So that does put Redditch Borough. I think they're actually in tier 6, aren't they? Redditch Borough. It must be tier 5.
Yeah, I'm just about to, or at least I hope I'm just about to get that on for you. Here it is. No, that's the Southwest Regional. That's what I'm going to go into in a minute.
I've now lost them. Are they in tier? That's why they're in tier 6. That's why they're in tier 6, not tier 5. That's why you missed them. But they're. I know. Hang on. That's what I'm looking at the wrong. I'm looking at the wrong league.
Is this one you're after, Redditch Borough?
Yeah, that's the one. I was looking at previous year. There you go. They'll drop from 9 points down to 3 points.
Well, that's huge for them.
Yeah. So that was broken sort of this afternoon. Saw that come up. So yeah. So
that'll put them in 8.
Hang on. Was it Redditch Borough or was it Redditch United that got the points deducted?
Oh, now you confused me. There's 2 different Redditches, aren't there?
Yes, there is.
There's 2.
Oh, hang on. We're going to just. I thought it was Borough.
Oh, absolute drama. Who needs Sky Sports News?
It's Redditch United. Take it back. It is Redditch United. There you go.
Redditch United, Redditch Borough is safe. All is well.
There you go.
So yeah, Redditch United, West Midlands Division 1, so tier 6.
Oh, there we go. You see that? Play a different league. There you go. But they go from 6 points to 0 points.
I mean, it's still a thing, isn't it? I mean, that is not ideal for them at all. And my last question on what we were just talking about there, Gareth, Wallsend BC. Do you know what the BC stands for?
No. Do you? Is this where you're going to tell me, or is it a genuine question?
Initially, it was a genuine question. I have had a little bit of a Google. Apparently, it's Wallsend Boys Club.
Yeah.
So it's Wallsend Boys Club Women. And it just makes me wonder. I'm very intrigued. How did the boys' club end up being? Should I just get rid of the boys' club now? Just call themselves Wallsend? Would have been slightly more exciting. But yeah, I didn't know, and I just googled it. And I'm like, oh, hello, that's a bit different. So there we are. Okay. Funny names. Spennymoor, by the way, is another one that I quite like in that league. So there's 3 brilliant.
It just makes me think of money. Expensive.
That's part of Newcastle, isn't it?
Right, where are we at to? We are on to the Southwest, I believe, now, which is a chance for Nick to come and join us again on this one. And some sad news in the Southwest regional, as you can see here, because AFC St Austell have withdrawn from the league. There was not much pomp and ceremony around this. I was happily typing away and then realised that there was a little bit of an issue with the league, because I couldn't quite see why there was only 10 teams in there. Had a little look, and AFC St Austell weren't there. So obviously I checked their Twitter, and the last post they had was to hire a new manager, which closed on the 5th of October. So presumably they have now been interviewing and have not made their decision or announcement just yet. But that was 10 days ago that closed. So presumably still interviewing for getting somebody in. But yes, they are gone. It was confirmed that they had withdrawn. Thank you very much, Gloucester City, for putting that on one of your social media sites so that we could see what was going on there. But yes, AFC St Austell gone and out of the league. But other than that, what we saying, Nick? What else is happening down there?
Well, I mean, I think it's worth just noting on the St Austell withdrawal that obviously St Austell wasn't that long ago were a FA Women's National League team and were playing it up there. I think one of the things I picked up from talking to people who are in the Southwest region, particularly around the Bournemouth groups, teams, that comms from the league and clubs in that part of the world is poor. Let's I think that would be a fair statement from their summary. That sums it up that it's another team that's announced St Austell have pulled. They've not actually done. There's been nothing sort of formal, and that I think is a sad state of affairs as well in itself, because it doesn't. Whilst obviously it's a sad day to see any clubs go, I know obviously sitting in the Eastern region, I will see the Eastern League make a statement about if a team's withdrawn, because it's about transparency. And I think there needs to be more communication and transparency from the leagues about these sorts of things. I think that's really important. So last sort of couple of results, AEK Bocco keep on rolling on with the victories. They beat Frampton Rangers 2-1. So that's sort of top of the table versus sort of bottom half there. Poole have kept on the heels of Bocco, winning 3-1 at Bishop Leyland. Ladard. Another one with some great names here, proper Southwest names, some of these. Sherborne had a sort of a good victory against Saltash United, so obviously kept them away from that sort of drop zone. We've obviously been now only 10 teams and 2 getting relegated. It's very quick to get pulled into that bottom couple of points if you aren't picking up those points themselves. But Torquay United were the other team that came away with victory, beating Pucklechurch 3-2. But that's obviously Pucklechurch who are now in 3rd, and Torquay United closing the gap on them with a game in hand, which could well put them into the mix up there with AEK Bocco. And looking at fixtures, it's another league where there's a couple of county cup games, but there are due to be 3 league games this weekend. Forest Green Rovers hosting Bishop Leyland. Pucklechurch have got Gloucester City, and Sherborne Town are hosting AEK Bocco. So it's going to be a lot mid-table versus top of the table clashes there. I think it's going to be a interesting one. I did have to Google where AEK Bocco are. Finest team in Bristol, I think they say there, or 3rd team in Bristol, one or the other. So there we go. It's an interesting bit of competition there.
Would make you wonder what Bocco stands for. That, I mean, is that the place? And AEK makes it sound very, very Mediterranean. So yeah, lots of good stuff going on there. Pucklechurch, for anyone interested, that is obviously my favourite side in that division for reasons that are quite obvious. It's great to say Pucklechurch, love it.
AEK Bocco play out of Hanham in Bristol. So go on, Gareth.
AEK Bocco were founded as a result of the merger of AEK Rangers and Bocco Juniors. So that's where...
Not Boca Juniors, the mighty
Bocco Juniors. Yeah.
Side.
There you go. You learn something new every day.
Every day's a school day on this channel, I tell you.
Yeah.
It is quite something. which is great to two of us as school teachers. So wonderful stuff. Well, there we go. That is the Southwest, which is again another one of those funny ones. Some teams on 1 game, some teams on 5. Very, very strange how those things are shaken out at the minute. But it is time for us to move over to the Eastern region now. And the Eastern region is going quite good, really, in terms of games played. They are absolutely on the over the quarter of a season mark. As you can see there, Stevenage happily sitting top. Watford, I'm so sorry, I've missed out a vowel there, and you're now Watford ladies development, so sorry about that, but they'll be very pleased to see themselves in second. I've got to be honest, this was something that caught us all by a bit of surprise in this league. So Stevenage obviously drew, they drew with Royston 2-2 in an absolute humdinger of a midweek game under the lights against Royston. So that was quite a big draw. And at that point, I was thinking, well, that keeps Stevenage 3 points clear of Royston, who'll be in second. And obviously, when I came to look at the league later on that evening, I saw that Watford Ladies had dropped themselves up into second, which was quite something, as they had at the weekend beaten St Albans 3-1, which was very good for them. But previously, the week before, Stevenage had played them and beat them 7-0. So it was quite a surprise to see Watford up there, but fair play to them. They are absolutely pushing really hard. Now, there was a bit of a merger between Watford in the WNL and Watford Ladies Development. The whole purpose of that is to ensure that obviously the first team players will obviously play in the WNL with Watford, but the reserve players, the youth players that Watford were producing would have the opportunity to go to Watford Ladies Development, and it's starting to show that there's a little bit more of talent that can come from being a youth player even at the WNL level, and that is clearly being used within the Eastern region there. So well played. That's Watford Ladies getting themselves up into second spot, as I say. Royston doing well in third place, which is where they finished last season. So they will be looking to maintain the pressure on Stevenage. St Albans also doing incredibly well, but 4 teams on 11 points. St Albans, Haringey, Dussindale and Bowers and Pitsea. Dussindale probably the interlopers on that one, having recently come up from the league below, not this season, but last season. They are certainly starting to find their feet in this division, whereas St Albans, Haringey and Bowers and Pitsea have been around for some time. Haringey, always the bridesmaids, never the brides really on this one. They play incredible football and they do really well, but they just drop points in random places, and this is very much the case for them at the moment this season as well. 3 great wins, but 2 draws and 2 losses. As you move down towards the bottom, Enfield have had a torrid time at the moment, as you can see from their goal difference. They are shipping goals regularly, but nonetheless, out of the 8 games they've played, they have managed to pull 5 points out of the bag. Atletico London, also known as London Seaward from WNL last season, getting relegated into the league and still hovering above the dotted line, which is where they will be hoping they remain, because they certainly will not want to drop down another division. Lots of things, like I say, happening there, but it's mostly been FA Cup, and then there's been a little bit of Premier Division matches being played, and then of course we've had the League Cup this weekend, which has been ever so exciting, and lots of teams from all 3 divisions, Division 1 North, Division 1 South and the Eastern region, all facing each other. So that was this weekend. Obviously, there are lots of games still to come. We do have a relatively full list of first team matches being played, but there are County Cup games happening this weekend as well. Stevenage will certainly be one of those sides, as will Watford Ladies Development and St Albans City, who are playing each other in the Hertfordshire FA County Cup, which does mean that Royston will have a game against Wroxham this weekend, which obviously would be incredibly helpful for them to win, because if they do, it would put them level on points with Stevenage, and providing they don't go to Wroxham and bop 13 past them, they will remain in second due to goal difference. But it would certainly help Royston to know that they are level on points. Big games down at the bottom. Atletico London will be facing Harpenden. Enfield will be away to Bowers and Pitsea, and bottom of the table, Hutton will be at home to Dussindale and Hellersden. So unlike your league that you were just talking about, Nick, it's more middle of the table against bottom of the table in some positions. So a very, very interesting league happening here in the Eastern region. And again, only 6 points between first and seventh. So at the moment, super competitive, which is really nice to see.
Out of interest, how do you think Stevenage will do next season if they did get promoted? Because obviously they pushed Luton all the way, and it was only sort of last couple of games, wasn't it, before Luton sort of finally won the league. And Luton are currently sitting 9th in the Division 1 South East.
I think a lot depends on what happens. There's been some management changes and things that have happened at Luton as well. So there's been a little bit of unrest, I suppose, happening around there. And I think when those things happen, you know, some players stay, some players go. And it really does depend what you bring up and who you bring up, because equally the season before, Real Bedford were the side that came up, and they've been going great guns in the division. So it really does depend on how you step on and kick on. And I think that's going to be the vital part. But you do look at, I mean, obviously, you know, working there, we sit and talk about who could make it, who would step up to tier 4 and do incredibly well. And it is just about making sure you've got the players that can fit in and do that. And to do that, you have to look around and see what's available. But that's exactly what's happened this season. You know, there's been some players brought in which have bolstered the squad. I mean, Sarah Wiltshire up front, absolutely unbelievable. This is a player who has played for Spurs before and done incredibly well while they were in the Championship. And she's on, I think, 16 goals already this season from 10 games. So, you know, when you bring in players like that who can bop goals in for fun, it really, really helps. So, you know, you would like to think that Stevenage can get up there and consolidate a position in the league, if not try and challenge towards the top. But you just never know. You just never know what the standard of the league above is going to be. Pre-season friendlies, very much Stevenage were fighting against teams that were in tier 4 and certainly matching them, beating them in some cases. But they're pre-season friendlies. You can't really judge how a team's going to play in the season based on one of those. So I think it all is. It's no different to asking Gareth the same question with Wythenshawe going up as well. You know, you sit there with your hopes and your dreams as to where you think things might be, and I'm sure he won't mind me saying we were talking about the WNL Cup and where he thought his points might be able to come from, and perhaps potentially a bit of a rude awakening when you eventually get into those games sometimes. And I think it's very much the case for us. We'd love to think we'd go there and we'd beat likes of Luton, and you know, we'd be able to comfortably get into mid-table. But there's going to be a lot of teams there who we might think would steal points from that might turn around and send us back with our tails between our legs. So I think until you get there and you get the chance to test yourself against them, but traditionally Stevenage have not done well in the WNL. I don't think they finished any higher than 6 before. So it has been very much a case of spending their time down towards the bottom half of the table. So it is certainly something they would want to improve on.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Obviously, sort of knocking around this, but I think was it Stevenage who relegated Cambridge City last season at the end? It was.
Yes, both of the teams that went down, Needham Market and Cambridge City, their last games were against us.
Yeah. So I was at that Stevenage Cambridge City game. I thought, yeah, and it was interesting just to watch. And I'm just looking at, I mean, you talk pre-seasons. I was at a Cambridge United pre-season friendly against Rugby Borough, and Cambridge United were 1-0 up at half-time and lost 3-1. I think it's going to be interesting. I think it just comes back to that jump as we were talking about earlier in the pod between sort of top of tier 5 and bottom half, mid-table of tier 4, and how close that is now, and where the gap is, and yeah, it's just interesting. Just the other point I'll just make about this league is obviously it's the one league that we've looked at that everyone does have a point in. It's the only league that everyone has a point in. Whereas, all the rest, as we sort of Gareth pointed out, there's a couple of teams at least who've got no points. So this is a really competitive league.
You are right. It's a very competitive league, and you look at Watford Ladies Development. We're going through the points pool, obviously, and the previous one had a 2.25 goal difference.
Points per game.
Goals per game. That's it. Thank you very much. Points per game, even. Watford Ladies Development are only on 1.875. So, as a second position stands, it would not. Well, it would put them currently bottom of all of them. Interestingly, if Stevenage was to drop into second, that would have been a 2.43, which still doesn't really help too much. And that's interesting because when this came on, I did the maths from last season, going through all of the divisions to see where that would be. And again, it was sort of mid-table-ish. It was one of those we were like 0.2 off. And that's why, Gareth, when I said Mancunian Unity were in the mud, that was why, because it was literally just a 0.2 sort of difference. And it's quite frustrating because, as you say, it's only 1 or 2 games. I say it's frustrating as if it actually made a difference and we were going to go up. Had it been 0.21 better. But there we go, it wasn't. Right, we've got one more league that we're going to throw up. Not literally, but onto the screen, and it is of course the East Midlands. Again, anybody can jump into this one. The East Midlands is a wild league. You talk again about teams going up and teams going down. East Midlands is absolutely mad because they've got 3 divisions that you can go into: a Division 1 North, a Division 1 South, and a Division 1 Central, I think they call it, which is absolutely crazy. There's 10 teams there, or at least there was. Lincoln City, I'm positive. I feel like I've got a bit of a Mandela effect going on here, Nick, because I am sure I have read somewhere an official communication that Lincoln City will not be taking part in this division, but full-time refused to take them out of there. And poor old Wellingborough are still sat below them, even though Lincoln City didn't play a game all season. Just because of goal difference, you kind of want them to get a point just so that Lincoln can at least be sat at the bottom, because at the moment it just looks a little bit sad for Wellingborough Town. But some other big ones in there. For those wondering, Anstey Nomads are definitely my favourite team in this league. I think if you can call yourself the Nomads, that is quite cool. But yes, lots going on in this league. Anything that anyone wants to chat about from these?
I'll just quickly dive in on the Lincoln thing because I think it is a really interesting one because obviously Lincoln City were relegated from Tier 4 last season, having had a season of Lincoln rivalries where they had Lincoln United and Lincoln City both in the same league. And then there was this sort of big announcement that Lincoln United, Lincoln City and Lincoln United Reserves were going to become this Lincoln women's brand. So that therefore so therefore you sort of funnel players between the teams, but there'll be but by looks at there'll be no approval by the FA to sanction the name changes or anything like that. So therefore they were technically all still different teams, which made it all really awkward. And so then they made this big announcement this is what they're going to become, Lincoln Women. Then they sort of made a little announcement which went, actually we're going to stick with that. And then they made another announcement fairly recently that, Lincoln City, who obviously are the team associated with Lincoln City Football Club, the men's team, Lincoln City men's team, are pulling out of the league completely because they can't find enough players. And you're sort of going, there seemed to be no joined up thinking and no sort of actually let's try and have for the 3 teams and make the 3 teams work. It would seem to be a bit of a left field one. That was,
isn't it? Like when you read the communication that was put out by the 2 teams, because they became Lincoln Women, was the big thing that was coming up there, and they were very clear about how Lincoln United were going to be the top team, and that would be the first team, and Lincoln City would be the second team. And basically, all that's happened is that everybody's just gone off to Lincoln United and said that's great, and Lincoln City, I think, have been sat there with 1 or 2 players and not a lot they could do. And at this point of the season, eventually they had to drop out. There's only so many times you can say we're not going to play a game. But like you say, it's just really weird. And I do think, some players perhaps don't want to be in that position where you're in a side that's got a team that's in a league above and a team that's in a league below, and don't want to play for the team in the league below. And initially that was the problem. But when they initially spoke about it, they were saying that Lincoln United were having, half of the good players, and Lincoln City were having the other half of the good players, and so it was stopping Lincoln football from doing well. And really, all that seems to have happened is that we've just lost a football team.
Yeah, and Lincoln United aren't doing particularly well either, because if I remember rightly, Lincoln United, I'm going to quickly move through my full-time tabs here. Lincoln United are bottom of the Tier 4 Midlands as well. So it's not even like Lincoln United have sort of pushed on and kicked on and are doing really well on the back of it either. They're struggling. And when you think, I look back sort of 5-6 years ago to those sort of COVID hit seasons, Lincoln City were pushing Wolves all the way, and they were a real challenger team. And there was that second COVID season. It was limited number of fans allowed. It was on a little 3G at the sports centre, and Wolves pretty much won with the last kick of the game. And it was it was a header, if I remember rightly, as well. But it was, you see the sort of foot, you can see the players go, how long? 1 minute, the ref goes, and it's just like, that's it. It's that backs behind the wall defending for the last minute. But yeah, Lincoln City now no longer Tier 5, not even not even in the league anymore. And it's a huge swing from that sort of where they were to where they are now. It's a real shame, real shame.
It is indeed, absolutely that. Gareth, I suppose, just to throw out to you on this one, that there's some, again, I would call them big names in terms of what I would mean to say is recognisable names. I should probably say that just in case Stu is watching and he doesn't like the word big being used there. There's some recognisable names in this division, with Rotherham United, obviously, and Mansfield Town, Chesterfield, not Lincoln anymore, obviously, but there's some pretty big names there. What I was most intrigued with on this one, Gareth, and I'm sure that if Stu was watching this, he would definitely pick up on this one. Why do you think we've got the Loughborough Foxes Vixens? Because a vixen is just a female fox, isn't it? Should they not just be the Loughborough Vixens?
Yes. It should just be the Loughborough Vixens. There's not really an awful lot more to say to that. One thing I will pick up on is how low the goal difference is at the top of the league. So Rotherham they've got those 3 wins. They've obviously been pretty close.
Yeah.
And obviously Gainsborough, 3 wins, 1 defeat, that 0 goal difference. So that's an interesting kind of development in terms of how they're going. I think the Lincoln situation is sad. There's not an awful lot more to add to that. Like you say, it just seems like that sort of lack of sort of communication and establishing really where you want to be. But yeah, it's those players. I say the players. If it was because they couldn't field the team, then there's not a huge amount of them impacted by the sounds of it. But to kind of opt to go, oh no, actually we'll keep a team in Tier 6, is a bit odd. But yeah, it just again a league in its infancy, and it sort of needs a little bit of time to shake itself out really, and see where people are and what's going. But Rotherham and Gainsborough will both be happy with the starts they've had to their season.
Yeah, I think they certainly will be for sure there. And some fairly, you're talking about there not being too many goals. The Loughborough Foxes have done reasonably well in that respect there. But Anstey Nomads, they've got an incredibly poor goal difference there, because they lost 11-0 to Chesterfield at the very, very start. And what's interesting there is to see that Chesterfield obviously had a +11 goal difference after that. But they have been pulled back, and part of that is because Loughborough Foxes got a 6-0 win over them as well. So, yeah, a very, very interesting league. Go on.
And Loughborough Foxes drew with Anstey Nomads. So is that sort of everyone can beat everyone type sort of results there as well? So it just shows how.
Yes, I know. The week after, they got blocked.
I think it shows a lot of where this league is in terms of where players are as well. That therefore, I expect you'll probably find. I haven't looked at, and someone might well look and check and prove me wrong on this, but I expect you'll find there were a couple of players missing who were key on one of those fixtures, and therefore for one of the teams, because they've got their real life gets in the way of their football, and therefore that does change it. And therefore leaves them wide open. If your goalkeeper's missing, then you're going to get a bit of a tanking, especially if you're putting a 5-0 striker in the back of the goal, into goal and hope that she can pull 1 or 2 saves off.
Very true.
The other thing on this league is, whilst it's 10 teams, and I appreciate Lincoln are one of the teams still in that list, but there's still 3 relegated. 3 out of 10 down is just that's. And I appreciate it's because there's 3 up, but that's still brutal. And I think this was one of the thing. I think the FA restructuring of the regional leagues, which they chucked out because they didn't like the fact that nobody wanted the PGAs into the league structure, was a real shame. Because actually, I think a restructure of the regional leagues was needed, and a more sort of robust sort of league structure that got the games on and actually had sort of standardised sort of start times, number of teams relegated, etc., would have been hugely beneficial. Because you look at when you drop down into tier 6 as well, you see some of the differences in the size of those leagues as well. It's huge.
I suppose that also didn't help with the fact that the WSL and the Championship didn't do any joined up thinking with the WNL and the regional leagues, and then just completely gazumped them with, actually, we're going to make sure the WSL increases, so therefore that now has a knockdown effect on everything. So, it's like being at work sometimes. That, you've got a really good plan, you've got it all sorted, it's all in place, then somebody else comes in and goes, but actually we're going to do this, and then you have to rethink everything again. So,
one thing just thought, it's Nottingham University, isn't it? University of Nottingham are in tier 6, Div 1 Central, and they've got a really tasty FA Cup tie. They've got Cambridge United coming to them in the FA Cup in a couple of weeks. That should be a real sort of, David and Goliath tie there.
Yeah, there'll definitely be some nice ones. So Gareth, going back to you just very quickly as well. We've obviously done the 8 leagues now, and we can confirm that if we were to stop everything right this very second, it would be Salt Team, indeed, who would have got that second spot with 2.571. Lion Pontyland on 2.5.
Two teams go up, so I don't know what the tiebreaker is. So at the moment, it'd be Lion Pontyland. One of them would go up. I'm not sure what the tiebreaker is going to be. So yeah, I'd wonder if the FA know what tiebreaker would be. Who knows? I suspect
what they should do is they should get both teams to travel to each other and just do like a huge version of rock paper scissors.
No, you see, I think we should. Well, there's a playoff. You see, I like. Did you see in the World Cup qualifiers, from Africa, the sort of the ramifications, what Nigeria had to do to win their group? It was amazing. We're down to who got the most yellow cards versus red card. It was everything. I mean, it was goal difference, goals scored, head to head. Yeah, brilliant. I think that's what we should. I think, yeah, get the yellow card record in there, get the red card in there. Definitely,
it's tricky, though, isn't it? Because if one team has played 20 games and one side has played 22 games and one side's got one yellow card more, but they played 2 games more, it's
yellow cards per game. What YPG, yellow cards per game, and RPG, red cards per game. There we go. This is it. And goals, of course, goals per game, goal difference as well. If you play 22 goal games, you've got to score more goals So you've got to have goals per game. Oh, this is I can see a spreadsheet coming on here. I can see a spreadsheet coming on here.
I think the FA are just hoping that it doesn't end up needing a tiebreaker.
I could see them literally having to just have a match and go on, then you two play it off, and that's how I would do it.
To be fair, I think it probably would be easier, wouldn't it, to have the match? No, I think having a spreadsheet, a really big spreadsheet, and just sort of putting everything up there and go, and then you could have the movement pieces. Where's Chris Gadsby when you need him for a spreadsheet? Get Mr. Gadsby in to do a spreadsheet for us.
Excited over this spreadsheet. I mean, I like a spreadsheet, but
you should see some of the spreadsheets I have to work with. They're Does Dishwater. It actually sounds exciting and interesting.
Well, there you go. That is our Tier 5 roundup for another week. Gareth, if people wanted to see more of your insane ramblings, whereabouts could they go and see that?
I don't really ramble too much, but Twitter is there.
Yeah, well done. Good point.
So you can go there.
So that is just GT18. That's not the page number of the catalogue that he's on. Don't be getting onto there.
No, GT18. My initials and the university I wore, the number I wore when I played lacrosse at university. That's it.
What position did you play in
There's
lacrosse?
there as well. You see, lacrosse. That's definitely a Marks and Spencer sport. That's you don't see footballers going to Marks and Spencers, do you? That's definitely lacrosse shoppers, Marks and Spencers.
If I don't see some Percy pigs at your next snack, Gaza, there's going to be problems, I think, on this one.
No,
Common Caterpillar.
I'll stop at the food hall on my way home from work tomorrow.
Well done. And of course, Nick, brilliant to have you on as well. Thank you. Whereabouts could people get more of
Does
you?
that work? There you go. Wolves Win Podcast. It doesn't work with the background. Wolves Win Podcast on all your favourite social media platforms, and do give us a download as well. We have in recent weeks discussed Wythenshawe away, and I will say this: the food reviews I was being told all about, yes, on Sunday by parents of players were telling me how wonderful the food was at Wythenshawe. So if you have got a spare afternoon and are in the Northwest, do go down to Wythenshawe and have some of their wonderful food as well. So there you go.
Well, I'm intrigued, Gaza. What sort of food can you get at Wythenshawe?
Oh, you can get curry and chips. You can get Cajun chicken wraps, Cajun loaded fries, all sorts of goodies.
Yeah, you see, I was on
spicy stuff there.
Yeah, I was on samosas on Sunday at Kelsa. So the Kelsa's not bad for a little samosa snack, spicy, little cup of tea, samosa, job's good. But yeah, apparently, Wythenshawe is the place to go for your food.
There you go. Get it on the Footy Scram channel
Things I
now.
love to hear.
yeah, definitely Footy Scram channel. There you go. But yeah, please do give us a follow Wolves Win Pod. And hope to see you all again soon.
Excellent. Well, we hope to have you back soon as well. Where do we stand? Well, next week we will probably be back with Tier 4 roundup. I think that is where we will be. And then, of course, the 26th, that weekend is the FA Cup. So I'm sure the week after, 2 weeks' time, we will be looking back at all of the action in the FA Cup first round with lots and lots of games to come. So lots happened there. Probably got Tier 5 after that. Hopefully there'll be some more games having been played. But it's been an absolute pleasure to have your company. Cheers again, Nick. Thank you very much, Gaza. And we look forward to seeing all of you next week. Ta-da.